welcome to Holly Hamel Hive podcast picture show. This is my dear friend Kris Floyd, and we are going to have a special treat today because Kris is going to share a lot of beautiful insight and wisdom. Kris and I have been friends for several years now, and I'm just really excited to finally get to host you, Kris. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, you guys, I am Kris with a K, and as Holly has said, we have known each other for quite a few times. Quite a few years, and seen each other quite a few times and had a lot of fun. Um, I am basically what is called an omnist. That means that I study everything that I can get my hands on. I want to know it all. I'm a seeker of knowledge. As much of this creation that has been gifted to all of us that we live in, as much as I can know about it before the end of my life, I would like to. So, other than that, I am also a practicing psychic and oracle and sometimes witch. But yeah, that is my title. And I am also in school. I'm in my last year before I begin my doctorate program. So after that, I will have 3 years in that program before I get either my PhD or my doctorates. Or yeah, so I don't know which one I'm picking, but I'm going to be a psychiatrist, and I plan on attacking basically prison reform, because my whole idea is that there's a difference in people who should be institutionalized and um put in jail. Institutionalized and rehabilitated. So like institutionalization is putting someone in a jail, like throw them away, throw away the lock. There's too much of that going on. We've got to start rehabilitating the people that we can, like these first offenders getting felons that ruin their life when they're like 17. They can't do anything till they're 30. It's pathetic. So I want to be an insider that can do something for us outsiders.
I love that.
So yeah, that's me.
That sounds like really good work, and I'm really excited to see what you do with this. And um, so I just want to jump right into your fascinating story. So I understand that you have survived death 7 times. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I can definitely tell you about that. I have survived death 7 times. And I'm glad we're talking about that, because I feel like every time I talk about this, people are like, "What's wrong with you? Your life is, what kind of messy life do you live to die 7 times?" And I'm not even gonna go so far as to say like it's a stigma, because it's not a stigma, because there's literally no, there's not a lot of people who have done that. But what it is people assume that my life is messy because of that. And I would like to say that because of one of these deaths, my life was messy. But I would like to say that because of the other ones, I was not at fault, and I was deemed not at fault legally. So that you can't just be like, "Hi, I died 7 times," because everybody in the world would be like, "Yeah, this person is sloppy, you gotta go, you're a threat, dangerous." So that's why I'm glad that we're able to talk about this in an environment like this, where that I can explain to people what happened. Of course, I'm not gonna go through the details of each death. Um, but I am going to go through the most impactful ones.
Great. And I'm really excited to hear what you took out of that situation, and like why what would be the meaning that you've derived from that, and like how does that impact your story and your life trajectory?
Well, firstly, to answer the first question, I have sometimes felt out of place in my life because I grew up, even though my grandmother was a witch, my mother decided not to be. She was a devout Christian. She thought her mother made all the wrong choices and she wanted to grow up two children that were Christian and, Bible believers. And so that didn't work out for me. But obviously, that moral code was ingrained in me. So when I got older, I began to, my grandmother, I went to her when I was like probably 9 years old and asked her for a book, meaning a spell book. And she gave it to me. So that opened that door for me and that brought me into that. And did that answer your question?
That was interesting. My question
Remind me.
is more about what um, the fact that you've like cheated death, if you will, like 7 times. Like
um,
what has that done for your perspective of like what life means? Like why did those things happen, and what does it mean?
okay, so okay, now I realize why I started with that. So I had a lot of guilt growing up. Okay. Um, and I felt out of place. And even when I didn't feel out of place, I felt like it was hard for me to find a place. And it was first and foremost extremely eye-opening. When you're growing up Christian, you hear gays are going to hell. People don't like gays. Gays are the bad, they work for the devil, whatever. I don't know. But gays are going to hell. So that guilt was like not something I believed, but something I heard so much that it was in my head, especially at that age. So, after I overcame all of this, like the first death is when it started. um, I was hit by a drunk driver, and he swerved completely into a tree, swerved me completely into a tree, like hit my car sideways so hard that I went over, like bump and down and whoosh into a tree, and I flew out of my windshield and close your ears if you don't want to hear the next part, but my nose was ripped open, my chin was ripped open, and a couple other things had happened. My lung collapsed, and that's how I died. I was rushed to the hospital, and right before they got me to the Carrollton Hospital, I had lost complete consciousness. But when they, no, the Bremen Hospital, sorry. But when they brought me back, somehow, after like 15, 25 minutes, like I was gone for 15 to 25 minutes. And as most of you know, like no oxygen to the brain for that long there's no way to explain it for me other than God. So uh, after that happened, I realized that surviving that, because when I woke up from it all, they said you have a 13% chance to live, and you have about a 7% chance to walk out of here without having machines connected to you for the rest of your life. I said, all I need is a chance. And that's all I needed. As soon as I could stand up, I started trying to exercise. I started, moving a little bit more than I probably should have, being in that condition. But I had will, and I knew that you had to have will at such a small chance. So, obviously, what does this say to me? This says to me that even though my entire life I've heard, because I'm gay, I'm going to hell, or da 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 da, I was dead, and all of this happened, and I was given the chance to be resurrected. I was given a second chance at life this time. And I was given a second chance at life. So you mean to tell me that the God that created me hates me, but gives me life just to let me die and go to hell? Well, then it doesn't make any sense that I was brought back, even with the effort that they brought into this situation.
Mhm. Was
One
that
of the other situations.
was that the accident since I've known you? Was that recent? Was that like in the not so
Do you
distant?
remember me sending you the picture of my face?
Mm-hmm. That was that one.
That was that one.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Is there another one that feels important to share today?
Yeah. I was drugged, and the drug that ended up being in my system and the test was fentanyl. So fentanyl is a very dangerous drug, and like it's just takes a little tiny bit to kill you. And I took this gift from a man that I knew for 15 years. And it was a congratulations basically to me and my fiance for being engaged. And he gave me this gift. And I didn't know that he planned on drugging me. I've known him for 15 years. Why would I think he was going to drug me? There's no reason for me to have any suspicion for somebody giving me a gift, you know. But I we I am friendly with the herb, and I am prescribed Xanax. So that's really all I do besides that, because I do have a lot of like trauma based things that's happened because of dying 7 times. So every now and then I do need a Xanax to take, but I don't abuse it. So that's all that matters. And so yeah, so what I'd like to say about that is you might be like, oh, well, who's to say that you just got lucky? Like the medical professionals, they brought you back to life. But the problem with this one is I was dead for an hour. They had called the morgue. They left my mother in the room and said, you can have your final moments with him. My mother went up to me. This is from how she stated it to me. Went up to me and she held me, she grabbed me, and she whispered into my ear, crying, obviously, but she whispered into my ear, Christopher, please don't leave me, not today. She said that she let go of me after holding me for a couple moments, and right as she was sitting back down in her chair, I came up. She said my eyes were going that way. That's the reason that I laughed. She said my eyes were going that way, but I came up. She started panicking and screaming and calling the staff in there, and they came in there, and that rising up after an hour, I mean, everyone was in shock. The hospital staff, I mean, they'd already seen me. It was the same hospital that seen me die the first time. They were in complete shock when they saw that I was dead for an hour and came back now this second time. I mean, anyone would be, especially my mother and my poor sister who didn't know what to do, bless her heart. But yeah, so it wasn't just luck. It wasn't just luck. It was proof of, for me, proof for a lot of other people, because I had this testimony, like I could go on and on and on and tell you about all the things that happened to me, but it doesn't matter. I can tell you what I've concluded from it, and that is what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you feel is the meaning of that?
To because I was lost and I was without purpose, and I felt like, like even though I believe in so many things, I felt like maybe because my life was so hard at first that I'm just here, like, and I'm also a very scientific person. So I started to lose my faith in a lot of things and quantify to myself my reality was purely scientific and, things like that. What we do when we lose faith, we go the other side of our brain, right? So, what it means to me is that before I I was given not one chance, not two chances. But after the second chance, I was certainly like convinced that I did have a purpose and that there was a God and that there was someone so much smarter than all of us, something so much that actually, you know what, I would like to say this deity is all of us. Everything, all of us, everyone, all merged into one. We are all just small little fragments of the identities that are possessed within the infinite and manifestations of beautiful arrangements. So, what I learned was that.
That's really beautiful. That's really beautiful. And that's my
Mhm.
belief too, is that we're all connected and there is a source. And the more that I learn about science, the more I can't deny divine design. Just the even just like understanding like the Fibonacci sequence and how that's infused through nature and through math and through anatomy and everything that we are. I can't
And sacred geometry.
I can't deny. I can't deny that there's something designed that I can't fathom that something like that could just happen randomly. Um,
Yeah.
ugh,
And even if it was a combustion, it was a designed combustion.
exactly. I feel the same way. So tell me a little bit about discernment and what discernment means to you.
Okay, so ever since I was little, I was like so good at knowing just like people's true colors, like their true character, their true grit. Like you can put on three masks in front of me and it doesn't matter because I'll just dissolve them. I don't. Okay, so let me start biblically. There are 7 gifts that are gifted to us by God, and one of those gifts is discernment. And I personally possess discernment. And discernment is the ability to basically, to sum it up, the ability to tell if someone's good for you or bad for you, or even good for themselves or bad for themselves. And first, I would like to say that it's not something that you only have if you're just born with it. It's something that you can practice, and it's as easy as paying attention to your actions. See, paying attention to your actions is um, what builds discernment. Because if you understand your actions and your behavior, then you can understand that of the others and the true purpose behind it. And if you see your facial expressions and you know your own expressions and what they look like, then if a person makes a face, you know what it means. And that's also a step. Like humans, we may not have telepathy, but around 79 or more percent of communication is nonverbal. It's body language. Like we communicate without speaking all the time. So I lost my train of thought on that one, but
Yeah, I agree. I agree that discernment, intuition, psychic ability,
okay,
all
good.
of those things are on the
Sure.
same spectrum, and that we can be born naturally good at it, and that we can also be taught and
Right.
practice it. And yeah,
Yes.
and I believe
So
that.
the importance of discernment is, so basically the way I look at it is I don't think anyone is innately evil. I really don't. I don't even believe that. I mean, I think there are some cases of pure evil, but I don't believe anyone is born innately evil. Like the serial killers that we all know, like Ted Bundy, for example. Maybe if his environment hadn't been so, he would have been proper nourishment. I mean, when lettuce doesn't grow right, we don't blame the lettuce. We blame the environment in which it's growing in. So there's that. But the reason discernment is important is because not everyone is good for you. Not everyone is here to help you. Not everyone is here to do right by you. Um, Absolutely, there are tests, like of judgment, but that's a whole nother conversation. Should we judge people? Should we not? Should we listen to our judgments? Discernment is not judgment. Discernment is a voice inside your head that says, get away. Discernment is more than just your conscience. Discernment is a gift from the spirit. It doesn't come from your mind. It doesn't come from your gut. It comes straight from the spirit. And we can all strengthen our spirit. And discernment is so important because it protects you. It opens doors for you. It gives you opportunities to open other parts of your mind. And discernment, even surprisingly, can help others build relationships with other people and themselves, because you have to understand who you love.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I've done a lot of work with the shadow. A shadow that I had been dealing with was judgment, and uh, I didn't even realize that that was one of my shadows because I thought I was so non-judgmental and so raised in the church, like let's love everybody, and then as a burner, like radical inclusion. And one of my biggest fears and showing up fully in my life and my strength and what I feel my calling is I was afraid to show up fully because I was afraid people would judge me. And so what I realized is that I was holding that shadow, that formula for judgment, because it was like deep inside me too. And so working through that, I realized that that discernment is the higher, that is the virtue, and then judgment is the vice. And so being able to just slightly tweak the energy of that and turning it into discernment versus judgment created more connection, more compassion, more self trust, and deeper relationships. Just
Absolutely.
in
Thank
general.
you. Yeah, you worded that really well. Appreciate
Thanks. I've
that.
been studying it a lot. It's been a big theme for me. So I love that you're bringing this up. So tell me a little bit about your 7 chapter theory. You'd mentioned something about reading all 7 chapters of someone's story. So what do you mean by that?
Okay. So let's just say, let's just look at this for example. I'm a 7 chapter book. I might be a 35 chapter book. You might be a 105 chapter book, but we all have at least these 7 chapters. Okay. And I came up with this theory based off of the 7 chakras. All right. So each chakra represents something. So basically this book here that you open, there's 7 chapters. Chapter 1 would be your root, and everything that the root represents, like how grounded you are, and what um connection you have with the earth and the world around you, and your stability and how comfortable you feel inside of chaos, and et cetera, et cetera. And then you come up then to your sacral, which is the sexual energy, and then so in that chapter it would be conversations about, like in your life, your sexual interests and whatnot, and da 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 da. And then we go up to like things like communication and love. So each of these 7 chapters would be a chapter about your chakra, your root chakra, your sacral, your navel, your heart, your throat, your third eye, and your crown. Sorry, I had to look at the stones just to make sure I said it in the right order. I laid out a chakra system here before me. But so, even though we all have these 7 chapters or more, you're reading chapter 2 on me while I'm reading chapter 4 on you. All right. So this is when communication problems start to go wrong, because you're reading chapter 2, you're like talking about, like sex and whatnot, and I'm reading chapter 4, so I'm talking about love. So this isn't a conversation that's going to work well, right? So what I meant by let's not get frustrated with each other's 7 chapters is you're probably always going to read these chapters at a different pace or rate. And that's another thing when astrology comes into play for believers, like depending on how your stars were when you were born, are constantly affected by how the stars and planets are right now. So that could be dependent on what time of day. Like if I'm a Sagittarius, my root chakra might be more active around 4 p.m. or 3 p.m. Whereas if you're a Gemini, it might be more like 7 or 8. So these things are, I see it every day, like what can we talk about? We can talk about these things. We can talk about sex. We can talk about love. We can talk about our connection with Earth. We can talk about communication. Yeah, communicate about communication. We can talk about intuition, imagination, creativity, so much, and so on. So what I see so often is that we were all designed to truly be, because, we are all one. We were designed to truly be also one together and interact together. But a lot of people nowadays, we lack the spiritual education to properly facilitate a relationship between another individual. And what I'm seeing right now is that so many people are giving up on communication and giving up on heart to hearts and real life meaning and connections. The numbers of who do that is becoming fewer and fewer. And so that's my 7 chapter theory. And make sure that if your lover's going back to look at chapter 2 while you're over here reading chapter 4, you have patience with each other, and even when you're meeting a stranger, the same thing goes. You're going to feel that energy, that those 7 chakra energies, no matter what. This is just how it goes. And if you like to refute it, I would gladly discuss.
Yeah, I absolutely do feel that there's those graduations of chakras and energies related to that, and how we can be operating from different chakra systems, a different. So, Kris, please tell me, what do you think about triggers? Like, what are they? What's the causes? Like, what are they actually doing? People love to throw that word around, but what do you think is actually happening with those?
So triggers are like, that's a really big, broad topic, as you know, studying psychology. Triggers can be caused by a lot of things, but what I want to talk about is what we can do about our triggers. What I want to talk about is how we can handle what triggers us and how we can take careful consideration of the tactics people are using to trigger us. So first off, what I know about triggers is that they are stemmed from something, sometimes trauma. They're always stem from something. But what a trigger is something inside yourself that you need to work on. Because the simple fact of the matter is, you should never be offended unless someone is going out of their way to offend you. If someone does something or says something that triggers you, then, even if they did it out of bad intention, ask yourself, why did that trigger me? And you'll probably know the answer, because every time I've asked myself, why did I just get mad about that? I realized to myself, it's because I connected it to something else and it felt personal to me because and because those two things were so closely related, and that last incident might have triggered me. So did this because it gave me the same kind of feeling. So I got to learn from that. Like, obviously when we're triggered, we're fired up, we're fighting, we're mad, we're angry, so what you have to do instead is ask yourself, why am I triggered? What about this bothers me, and what can I learn from this? And how can I say to myself in the future, hey, this, or what can I do so that in my future I can say to myself, this no longer bothers me? What you can do is you can study everything that does bother you, and you can get to the root of it. And if you pull the root of a plant out, it dies. So that's what I say about triggers, my friend.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely know that when I feel triggered, it's rarely about what's actually going on in that moment. Because a trigger is different from like, I think actually like being, attacked or being unsafe. I mean, I think
Yeah.
yes, that those two can be somewhat overlapping, but if I get triggered by something, typically I'm having a nervous system response referencing a memory of something painful. And so I get to then reflect and say, oh, wow, that thing that okay, is it actually about this that's happening? Typically, no. What is the past situation that is, that it's referencing? And then, like, oh, that was from when, like, that one time when I felt like, this, that, the other, and I felt unsafe because of this, and that was so painful and traumatizing. Okay, so is that what's happening here? Okay, no. All right, so I can release what's happening in the present. Well, but what about like what triggered me in the past? Like I thought I was over that. Clearly I'm not. What can I do now to work through that pain? It's now maybe I'm far enough away from it that I can actually work through it, or maybe there was some of that root left over that I didn't realize. I thought I had gotten through all of it, but no, something still hurt my feelings about that. And so then I get to have the opportunity to have that flushed up so that I can work on that and heal that. Because my personal goal is to move through life with loving non-attachment. And when I get triggered, I'm attached to the pain. I'm attached to the trauma. I'm attached to the memory or the threat, of that situation. And so it's a lot of like really deep work. And I there's some other people in the coaching community. We say like triggers are gifts because it shows us where we're unhealed.
Exactly. It's a place, a dark place in which we should shine our light. I'm glad that you said what you just said, because the word that you said, triggered, you used a good word.
I really
So
I've gotten now to the point like where when I'm triggered, rather than being like I'm mad and now I'm upset, now I'm threatened and like, oh, how dare they, I need to get even, or I need to respond or do something. Instead I'll say like, oh, how interesting that this is coming up for me. I get curious now instead. How interesting.
right. And it's good to keep that childlike curiosity, especially in the realms of exploring yourself and the world around you,
Mm,
because we live life with a beautifully opened eye and opened heart, and never let anybody kill that child inside of you, kill that inner child. And by anybody I mean ourselves as well.
mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hmm.
I found that curiosity is one of the most um, I feel like it's like a passport between timelines and people. And like if we can have curiosity and say, rather than being like I'm mad or like how could you, or like something like that, like, well, tell me more about that, like leaning it, rather than being
Yeah.
like, oh, flip a table upset, or like now there's this boundary between us, like, oh, um I feel
Right.
like if we have curiosity, be like, well, tell me more about that. And like, well, what's actually under that? Okay, so if I got triggered to a past thing and I realize that's still not healed, what is the belief under that pain? Like, what do I believe that's going to happen to me again? Do I believe that I wasn't worthy of love in that situation? Do I believe that life isn't safe, that love isn't safe? What's really under that? And I keep getting more and more curious until I'm able to get to the root of it and then make peace. And that's really like what I want. I want to feel peaceful. I want to feel unbothered as I, navigate through life.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the thing. You have to get out that root because, like our life garden is only so big, and what we sow and what we plant, it really matters. And I'd like to pull out the sweet potatoes and put in some asparagus. Like there's some roots you got to get out to make room for in your garden and of life. Your mind is a garden. um your thoughts are the seeds. You can grow flowers or you can grow weeds.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, that was such a wonderful poetic thing to
it,
say.
it, it that's not, I don't think that's mine. I don't think I made that one up. No, but I can share one that I did make up.
Okay, let's hear it.
Let the sun remind you daily that it is okay to shine brightly, and let the moon remind you nightly that you are not always full.
Ooh. Ooh, I just got chills. That's really sweet.
Yeah,
Really,
it
really
can. Yeah,
sweet.
that was like a big thing for me because like I like to be sociable and nice and happy to people, but some days I'm so low energy. The communication isn't a thing for me. Like so I find that helped me realize that it's okay to not be an energetic bright star every day because even the moon goes through its phases.
Mm, absolutely. That self compassion is really beautiful. So, Kris, tell the people listening and watching this if they want more Kris in their life, what are you doing to serve the community, and are you offering? And tell us a little bit about if people want to share more of your magic and your energy, what can they do, and what are you offering?
Okay, so I recently just started my little baby site. It's been a dream of mine forever. It's called A Gift from the Stars. So I took three businesses, micro businesses that I was already running, and I put them all together into one. I make homemade organic soaps from shea butter, honey, glycerin, whatever you like, really. And I make them for conditions, and I'll share a link if that's okay, and people can check out my site. That's one way to communicate with me. My phone number's on there, my email's on there. Um, I do a lot of like spirit work. People bring me into their home to cleanse their home, or I do aura work. A friend of ours, Robert DeVere, he just recently requested some chakra cleansing services from me and told me today that it was like so energizing and amazing, and that's something that I just started offering. So I'm glad that he got that experience from it. But other than that, I have an Instagram. I have a Facebook. I don't really. I like to. The thing about my website and my dream is, I like how it is right now because I like to be able to talk to the people and see what it is, what they need and what they want. Because I've devoted my life to studying the spirit because I have had so many profound experiences that taught me that the spirit was the greatest riches of all and the greatest thing that we can learn on this earth, right? So the website that I have, I'm actually trying to save up around 20 grand because I'm flying to Eritrea. It's a part of Africa. Um 89% of Eritrea is without clean water, without water access. And they have a population in the millions. So 90% of that is a lot of people. And my heart, my soul is calling me there. Um, everything that's on my site, I used to just gift away, and I used to just give away. But now I'm like, well, like I'm giving away hundreds of dollars of stuff, and I still give away hundreds of dollars of stuff for only like $40, $45. But I'm trying to save up 20 grand because I want to fly to Eritrea, and I've done the math with even just 10 grand, I could create a clean water source for 24 families for about 4 to 5 years.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Well, we'll
Yeah,
have, when we post this on YouTube, we'll have a place for all of your links and places that people can donate, places
yeah,
that people can follow you on social media and connect with you for your services, whether it's like the beautiful body products that you make, whether it's the chakra services, the oracle work. I know you do tarot
right.
too,
The
right?
the readings, I make the products. I don't just I make some, like I told you guys about my face being ripped off and all that. I was super unconscious, insecure about the scars on my face because I had been a model for 3 years, as you remember. That's when we first met. When we first met, that's when I was modeling. Yeah.
Yes.
So my face was like ripped off basically, and they had to sew it back up. So the scars were definitely going to be there, but I started doing a lot of work and study, and I actually created a cure for it. So even though these were deep cuts and flesh ripped apart, I have no scars
Oh,
whatsoever. So that's one other product I offer, and I also offer things like prosperity and money and healing rituals or spells. Or if you're more of a simple kind of person, I can just construct the whole thing for you, just send it to you, and
mhm.
that's why I like to be able to talk to people, because some people get weary about this topic, because it seems supernatural. But the way I look at it is it works, and God, the supreme being that we all worship, like it doesn't matter what you call him, it works. It doesn't matter what you call him, we all follow the same God. And so because it works, God is obviously allowing it to be. So I have no problem with this assistance of any kind of need. And actually, just for references to everyone, I for my credibility, if you guys know who Bob Ross is, I used to work with Bob Ross's art instructor from an institute in California, who befriended him, and they were friends at the time that I was working with her. She had heard about me in California. She's 80 years old. She heard about me in California, here all the way out in Georgia, and said that she had heard about my remarkable healing abilities and whatnot. And I do not claim to be a doctor. I don't have any kind of like special miraculous bam, snap my finger, you are cured, honey. I am not Billy Graham. So I worked so I worked with Bob Ross's art instructor for 3 years. She had ocular dystrophy, which I hope I'm saying that right. I'm sorry if anyone out there has it and I'm saying it wrong, but it's where over time your eyes, they fade away. The ability to see fades away. This is Bob Ross's art teacher. She loves to paint. How she was devastated that she couldn't see what she was painting after being doing it for 60 years. So I worked with her, and it did a lot of help, and we lost contact a couple years ago because I believe her family put her in a nursing home. But anyways, yep, I've worked with celebrities, coaches, and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and
So
I've personally experienced your soaps, and I love how gentle they are, and they always seem to just like go directly to like what I need them for. Not only just getting clean and fresh, but they really are like healing. And me being a little sensitive with certain things, they've never been a problem. It's always been very in alignment with my system and my chemistry. So I really appreciate that. And then just having known you for as many years, it's been a long time now. It's been
I'm so glad too. I
five
love you.
years. I love you too. It's been at least 5 years.
I've got to see you soon.
And we've had such beautiful times together, and you've just consistently been just a beautiful beacon of light, just a person that is not afraid to go into the dark places and shine light there, and to teach and to heal and to always be open to people that are struggling, and to have compassion for people that are sometimes misunderstood. And so I've always really appreciated that about you.
Thank you. Really, I needed to hear that. So thank
Oh,
you.
good, good. All right. Well, this was an absolutely beautiful visit. Thank you so much for your time. And the viewers will put Kris's contact info and links and all the ways to work with him below. And I'm just so grateful for your friendship and your presence in this world. It's so nice to share.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I
Absolutely.
truly appreciate it. And I really, I will pray for you. Yes, I'm a witch to praise, but I will pray that your Holly Hive community goes great, because guys, she's definitely a queen and she deserves it. I know this little lovely lady right here, and she has a heart like no other. She's been there for me in some dark times, and she deserves everything. So I love you
I'm
so
about to
much,
cry.
and
Okay.
I love you so much, and
I love
thank you
you
for
more.
having me.
Thank you.
And we will talk soon.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Namaste.
Namaste.